This next panel is about redefining roles, adapting the workforce in the age of AI. In this panel, you'll hear from leaders who have embraced a culture of innovation and find out how they're finding the balance between machines and humans and their organizations. Moderating our panel is my friend Philip, co-founder of media company Future Commerce. Philip, welcome. Frankie Dean, she has a cool name, SVP of Growth at Monica Venator. Frankie Dean, come on up. I think I called you out of order. Suruchi Shukla, VP of Marketing at Minted. Come on up, Suruchi. And last but certainly not least, Jenna Posner, former CDO of Solar Brands and current founder of Chief Digital Agency. Come on up, Jenna. Take it away.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. We were just talking backstage about what makes for a good conversation like this. And I think what makes for a good conversation like this is understanding sort of the rules of engagement. So I'd love to set the stage real quick for what we can take away here today is that one, that there's an adaptation within the organization to look at AI first for the ability to deliver on existing roles and job functions and treat it as a coworker or co-pilot, or maybe as a pilot, as we heard earlier, but also to quantify whether that's successful in our orgs or not. So hopefully that's what we get away, come away from this conversation with. But let's start with you, Suruchi. You are at Minted. I'm very familiar with the brand, very design-centric approach, something I love personally. In your ecosystem at Minted, when you're thinking about the application of AI, do you have or give any immediate pause to this idea of the realm of creativity and a lot of the challenge around the art world or the design world around displacing some of that with the use of AI?
Yeah, great question, Philip. And hi, everybody. I'm Suruchi. I'm the VP of Marketing at Minted, which is a premium stationery, art and home decor brand. What a lot of people don't know about us is we work with 15,000, roughly that number, of artists around the globe who are designing for us. And we then put their designs through a crowdsourcing voting mechanism, and then we carry the winning designs. So this world of AI that's changing around us is very, very relevant for us. And so, when I think about AI, and we at Minted think of AI as both a friend and a foe. Friend because you heard it in the panel and throughout the day, that AI can help us be very productive. It can get us the nimbleness and the agility. And so while all of that is true, we at Minted strongly believe that there is and will always be place for human-produced art and design. And so while AI can do a lot of my image generation, it can help us with a lot of the production work, I think AI still needs a lot of sophistication before it can really hold a candle to even internally my well-orchestrated campaign-driven photo shoots. So there's still quite a bit of ground for AI to catch up on. But at the same time, AI-produced imagery has no, gives no competition to my artist-generated imagery. The quality, the finesse is still very much missing. So I think that the real debate in my mind is about, can AI assist human design, and to what degree? And to what degree means how can we still maintain the sanctity of the human-generated design? And then the second debate is really about what should the value of a human-generated design be versus an AI design? And should we have to start thinking about the value of AI-produced, AI-assisted, and purely human-generated designs very differently?
Is there a specific example that you could point to of the way that you've enhanced rather than replaced in your process right now?
Yeah, and so, I'll tell you an example of how we're using our PDP imagery, which I think a lot of retail folks are very familiar with it. When you are selling furniture or artwork, you really want to see that in situ, right? You want to see it next to a sofa, a bed, in different kind of frames. And for me to go photo shoot each one of those permutations is enormous expense. So we actually partnered with a service, this company called Cloudinary, that built a service for us, which we upload a base image of a picture of the painting or art print, and they generate all of these other permutations for us. So that's an example of the enhance and augmenting
that gives me a little bit of an excited sort of frame around how the future of personalization might come about too, is that right now you're creating that and you're programming that, but I also think about, ooh, does that mean one day that the customer can be in control of that? That gets me really excited. Frankie, you're at Monica Venator. When you're thinking about this transition, like how are you, same question back to you, how are you enhancing rather than replacing in a job function this use of AI, and what tools are you using to do that right now?
Sure, yeah, I'm Frankie. I lead the digital business at Monica Venator. It's a demi-fine jewelry brand for anyone who doesn't know. So I guess we have similar application actually across like creative asset production and taking like maybe a 30-second campaign video and creating 50 assets from it using AI. But I think the place that's most exciting for us at the moment is more on-site journeys. And so the search and merch functionality that we're starting to use now allows us to, like, I think the typical role of like a web merchandiser would be come into the office on a Monday, look at what's traded well over the weekend, what hasn't traded well over the weekend, look at all my product data, and then kind of re-merch all my PLPs manually based on what's doing well, so I should push more of it, or what's really struggling and I want to give that a bit of a better chance, or I need to focus on margin or ASP or whatever it might be. And actually, what we're doing now is we're handing the keys for that over to the technology, and AI is allowing us at scale to not manually or automatically merchandise all of our PLPs based on the individual user. So rather than saying product X should go here and product Y should go here, it's saying, hey, either I know you as a customer, and I've got all the data against you as a customer, I know your transaction history, and therefore the website experience is going to look like this, or you might be new to site, but I know the source you've come from, and I know what you've already clicked on and the journey you're already on, and I know a million other people have done the same thing and what they ended up buying, so I'm going to give you this experience. And I think that's really transforming both the experience for the customer on site, or clearly for us, the commercial outcome for that is really beneficial, but then also the role that the web merchandiser can now play in terms of thinking a bit bigger picture, thinking more about like PDP performance and things like that, rather than clicking lots of buttons and moving products around the PLP.
Can I push on that a little bit? So I was just talking about this last night, if Tim is in the room. We know how people come to our sites because we're typically bringing them back, right? So we know the creative, theoretically, we should know the creative that brought them back to the site because we're in control of it. What are you doing specifically there, and how do you guide the experience? Is it just merchandising?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit difficult because of the way that I guess the paid media platforms are working now. Paid media platforms are probably the place where AI took over the quickest, right? So Advantage Shopping, Performance Max, things like that came into play really in the last few years and transformed the role of the performance marketer. But because of that, although we know the creative we're putting out there, really the people that are winning on the paid media platforms are those that are using mass amounts of creative and assets to reach and engage with a huge audience. And therefore, you don't necessarily know exactly which creative has brought them to site. But I do think through the data that you have access to, you start to understand what is engaging customers at scale and volume, which is going to be your off-site activity that enables you then to personalize your content on-site to those kind of key reasons to buy that gets the better commercial outcome.
Not that we need a solution on stage right now, but just so you guys do know, there is a company out there called Edge, which is ADGE.ai. And it is actually a solution that's now leveraging AI to do that measurement across all social platforms to actually see which is the content that's actually driving the most value, and then dynamically making recommendations on what attributes within that content can actually drive value, and how can you change your strategy based on what's driving the most revenue.
That's totally.
And there is another company that can also then match the landing content, so like the dynamic content matches your journey. So if my email's hero image is this, if I land on the site, a lot of times in very many companies, you won't see that image anywhere. Then like, oh, did I just see something and click on something wrong? But then now if you were to bring a lot of that imagery at the top of your landing page, you've now solved a customer journey. I don't know if that's sort of what you're doing.
That's exactly that. And Jen, I want to bring you in here in a second. So my outlet is called Future Commerce, and we're a media brand that focuses specifically on future commerce. Like, we're talking about stuff that sounds futuristic, but it's happening right now.
Yeah.
So where are we going? And I think that is where we're heading, is this idea that the job of e-commerce used to be that I built websites. And then the job of e-commerce a couple years ago was I make ad creative. The job of e-commerce in the future is building purpose-built funnels that adapt to the creative that the customer saw that brought them back to the website. That is the job. So Jenna, you've been in the CDO role. You've done this at scale for very, very recognizable brand. What about that is right or wrong, and what are the tools that get us there right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things that's often missed in the process is this real need to establish trust in the organization. Now, a lot of this is new, and we're pushing the boundaries, and we're leveraging new technology, and so finding a way to establish trust is going to be key. And I just want to kind of like walk us through this evolution. I think we're all on different parts of this journey right now. We were faced with the democratization of AI through the utilization of ChatGPT, right? And so we all thought, oh my God, I can use this, I get this, I can create content, this is awesome. So then we thought, well, where do I create content in my business? Well, I create PDP copy. So I wonder if I can get my teams to leverage ChatGPT or some solution that ties into it to create copy faster. And so we kind of had these very mundane applications of how we were using tech just to kind of almost build trust for ourselves in the process. And then it got a little bit deeper, right? We started using Adobe Firefly, we started creating assets, we started testing and playing with creating these assets. Then it turned into dynamic attributing, and then it turned into dynamic categorization. And all of a sudden, we saw that our processes were kind of getting sped up faster and faster by AI. And then I felt like there was a pause. And we were all kind of like, okay, we're calling on you technologists. We've done what we can with these tools that are in front of us right now. We need you guys to do this for us. We need you to build on top of these solutions and give us productized use cases that we can implement and market. And so conversational search came out, long-form content, dynamic landing pages, SEO optimization, all of this kind of came out, and we started testing those and learning through those and building more trust in our established environments that also helped kind of springboard this change management that had to happen. And so that's what's happening, right? And we're leveraging these tools, like Bloomreach being a great example, but there's like 1,000 others. But what's happening in the industry now, which I think is most compelling and most interesting, is that we're seeing another level of democratization, and that comes through the Sierras of the world, it comes through the Pixera AIs of the world. These are now technology companies that are building humanized agents that we can train to do things we need them to do. So when we look at our processes and we say, oh man, I wish our customer service reps didn't have to click through and modify 40 orders when I walked in, when an AI agent could have done this in the middle of the night when the request took place to begin with. We now have the tools to be able to start doing that. And so I think what I'm most excited about is I think we've worked very hard to build trust and acceptance that AI is going to be a category of technology that's going to continue to springboard us forward. But now we're about to unleash this agentic AI world where we can really start personalizing these experiences to our specific needs and our processes internally. And that's going to change the game dramatically, in my opinion.
There's like a very specific example that we talked about around like the processes that go around like proliferating data through an OMS. Or
Sure, yeah. So here's the use case. I'm like a midnight shopper, right? I'm in bed, it's midnight, I'm impulse buying on Instagram right now, and I'm buying a bunch of stuff, and I realize, oh no, I shipped this item to my mom's house. Today, I have to go and create a ticket, and I have to request that order be modified and that the address be changed. The challenge with the majority of our customer service processes today is that when the agents come in, they're getting these lists of open tickets, but they're still dealing with yesterday's tickets, right? They're still kind of like catching up in whatever backlog they're dealing with. And so by the time they actually get to my request, which is to change the shipping address on this order, it's already shipped out to my mom's house. So there's a number of things that are wrong with that scenario. Number one, customer request wasn't met, right? So I'm pissed, now I gotta wait. The brand has to do a return to sender, which is expensive. All of that time that the item is on its path to my mom's house and back to the brand, that item is out of inventory and is not in a sellable state, so that's a cost for the brand. And overall, logistically, it's just kind of a nightmare. And so Instead, what could have happened is that you could leverage an agentic AI solution, and essentially, everybody hears agentic AI and they think, oh yeah, I have a customer service chatbot. That's not what this is. Take that out of your minds. The idea here is that if you have a task, right, that a human can do, and I'll walk through this OMS use case, and you can document it out, like a same documentation using to train your CS staff. You can train this agent to do it. So the steps could be accept the ticket, log into OMS, look up the order number, hit modify order, hit change address, change the address, save the order, log out of OMS. And all of that could have happened at midnight when I made the request to begin with. So instead of your agents coming in and being bogged down by these mundane tasks, and they're already behind and they've already disappointed the customer, instead they come into a bunch of closed cases and they're freed up to do things that humans do, like talk to people, like solve problems, like be empathetic, and ultimately generate more loyalty with the consumer.
And there's new challenges that come along with that too, because I was sitting with some friends over here at in the cybersecurity space, and they're concerned about things like that opening up a new realm of threat detection, prompt injection, like all kinds of stuff that we just don't have to deal with today. So like that's a challenge that's in this future that you're going to have to overcome as well. If Frankie, if I had to go back to you, this is about adapting the workforce, right, to the age of AI. So tools give us, some leverage and create all these new capabilities. Is there an example of a role that has been sort of redefined in your org, and how has that gone, and how are you measuring that that's beneficial, not just for the business, but for the person in the career space and how they're planning?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I described the web merchandiser earlier. I think that's probably the biggest and quickest evolution of role, because they've literally gone from manually merchandising to not having to do any of that and have like maybe 80% of their time redistributed to something more important. But I think that there's a few other roles in the team as well. One would be like a marketing analyst, for example. So as Jenna was talking about now with the power of ChatGPT, you can, and we've started to do this quite extensively, we can give it a data set. You still have to know the right formats to give the data in, but you can give it a data set and you can start asking it questions about the data. So where I previously would have briefed into an analyst, hey, like why are sales in category X down year over year for the past 4 weeks? And they would go through a number of hypotheses, and it might take a few days for them to work it out and come back with a piece of work. You can start to have that conversation with ChatGPT or any other LLM that you're using, so long as it has access to the data set. So I think that the role of something like that, a marketing analyst, is evolving. And I think what it allows, it comes back to the point that's been mentioned a couple of times across a couple of the talks today, is that it allows less time on stuff that computers could do and more time on things that computers can't necessarily do yet, which is the more humanized component of how people operate. So in this example, it allows for the storytelling component to come out of an analyst, right? Because a big part of that role is how do you tell a story with data, which ChatGPT doesn't really do at the moment. It gives us kind of the answers, but it doesn't like stitch it all together. It doesn't have the context of the business necessarily. And so it allows for the access to the data to be very fast, but it allows for that role to do what they're really doing in adding value to the organization, which is kind of the, what is the story, and then what is the so what do we do about it?
Mm. What is the merchandiser doing with their 80% free time?
Well, I think probably what it's done for us is I probably would have hired by now 2 or 3 more people to allow for us to tailor content, for example, across our different geographical locations, which we are now able to do with one person. So I think it's allowed for us to hire less people less quickly, and also in a similar way to the analytics piece, like the role of the web merchandiser is to kind of trade the site and to understand what's selling well and improve on that, right? So I think it allows for them to to use the data to make better decisions, give more information back to other areas of the business, like new product development, to make sure that we're getting value out of that, versus just being like very much in the mundane tactical tasks.
Suruchi, you're in this executive role where you're overseeing, I'm sure, an entire org of people that are all trying to deliver on goals for the brand, and at the same time, while you're doing the work, you have to sort of change the nature of those roles at the same time, and maybe the org is getting redefined at the same time. So how do you prepare for the change in the org? Has it changed yet? And how are you filling the gaps in training to get to where you think it could be?
I mean, to build on what Frankie was saying, I don't think the org has completely changed as much as it has allowed us to keep certain roles open or not hire as fast, as we are still redefining how the work actually changes. So things like, I had a 10-people copywriting team. I don't need that many people to be copywriting. We've transitioned a few of them to do editing work, right? And we used to use a lot of different contractors out there to create other types of copy generation. Like if you're writing blog articles or SEO articles and stuff, we don't need to pay for all of that. So I think the copy piece itself has shifted drastically. The other thing, I don't know how many people here use us for their holiday cards, but that is one of the primary things Minted does. And when people upload their pictures to get their holiday cards done, and Q4 is the time when this happens, we would hire an army of people who would sit there and touch up your pictures, because people would be like, remove that car from the background, remove that bird from the background. Now I don't have to hire any of that, because guess what? All of these Midjourneys and other tools actually help us with background filling and touching up, right? So there's a lot of seasonal workers that we would have to go find. We don't have to. Copywriting I already talked about. And then there's this question of how many photo shoots, how many campaign shoots do we need to do? So we gave up a portion of our photo studio because we're not going to necessarily need it as much as we have used in the past. So I think that there's tweaks like those that are happening so it's not like we've gotten rid of anybody, it's just we've used them to do other tasks and do more of.
That's in the task, who's going in search of the tools and the processes or defining them? Is that sort of cooperative in the org as the person's using a new tool, they're educating and creating a process around it? Tell me a little bit about how you're doing it.
So I think for us at Minted, we started to adopt a culture of AI last year when it became very clear that this thing is coming at us at a fast and furious pace. We created an AI task force at our leadership level, and that's made up of myself from a marketing perspective, our COO from like CS and that side, the head of engineering, because AI is so diverse and it doesn't sit with just one part of the organization. And our goal there was both to evaluate the new tools that are coming out, but also have a pretty systematic approach on how we want to introduce it into the org. Within the marketing team, we actually ran an AI innovation session last year, in which we took our, the marketing, the brand, the creative, everybody, and broke it into teams and said, why don't you guys go try these different tools and come back and present to the org your findings. That, took away the inertia and the fear that the teams have, but I was also trying to make sure our creative team can actually buy into these tools, so they can start to use these tools as truly, that they can get more efficient with it, versus these are not tools that are just going to take your jobs away from you. So I think we did a lot of that. We then built some champions in the org itself, and these champions' job is to stay abreast and bring the information back. And so in general, we've kind of imbibed this throughout the org. And this year, 2025, we've actually added AI into the goals for everybody to say, how can we start to talk about true adoption and make it more meaningful for people?
I'm so sorry to triple click. What's a goal around AI? Give me a goal. What is the goal? What's the OKR around AI usage?
I think a lot of it is around cost and efficiency, because profitability is a big goal of ours for next year. And it comes with things I was talking about. Can we go down from 7 photo shoots to 5 photo shoots? Can we, so it's all about doing more with less and putting measurability behind it.
Or doing more with more AI.
With less people and resources, more AI, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's interesting. what I've been running into recently, which I think is, I don't know, you tell me if it's an interesting concept, is there are agentic AI, I'm a big fan right now, agentic AI solutions out there that are putting AI to work, right? So let's say the task is, we got to do background removal on all these images. Again, these agents are going into Photoshop, they're following a list of tasks, they're knocking out the backgrounds, they're doing the work on knocking these backgrounds out. But what they're also doing is they're deploying other AI agents into the interwebs, and they are finding the latest and greatest background removal AI technologies. They are registering for free trials. They are taking those images and they are testing background removal. Then they're QCing that result against the result of the current AI technology that they're using. And if it's better, then they swap it out and they use the better one. So when you think about kind of scaling this knowledge base of what AI technologies are doing which ones are most effective, it's changing so rapidly. The concept, in my mind again, of having 30 people dedicated to like staying abreast of all of the AI solutions that are out there, it's not sustainable. There isn't enough hours in the day to sit on every panel and read every article and listen to every podcast. And so the concept of leveraging AI to find and test and source more AI, I think is also super cool.
I mean, you could just subscribe to Future Commerce and it would get all of that for you in one place. There's a plug. Let me ask the inverse of the question. Do you have an agentic AI brand name solution that you like, or is this something you build out of a kit of parts? Or?
Yeah. Pixera.ai is one that's really pushing the boundaries. They've got roughly 10,000 humanized bots that they've built over the past 7 years. And they do that by watching public servers and basically monitoring and training on human behavior. And so these agents can do anything we can do online. They can type, they can get through 2FA, they can get through CAPTCHAs, it's creepy and awesome.
AI to make AI better and to build on more AI.
That's right. Anything that I say is like creepy and awesome, I usually subscribe to, so.
We like to talk about things that are working. What hasn't worked so far? Has anyone, I didn't even prep you guys for this. What's something that you felt like was a path you went down? I'll prime the question a little bit. I feel like a lot of people are feeling some fatigue around having to pull together 4 or 5 different solutions and be the person that's sort of, passing stuff around all these different systems.
I can start because I'm dealing with it right now. We are trying to launch programmatic ads on podcasts in a big way. And the companies that we've been trying to partner with initially said they will create the voice recording to go with it. We've now been going back and forth. 5 rounds has happened, and everything that comes out of it sounds very robotic. We've come out finally and said, are you guys using AI to do this? They wouldn't say yes to it, but they say we use third parties to produce this content. We're now at a place where we're saying, let's find voice recording artists, and we're going to have to do this ourselves because we're now 1 month behind. So there's this, how do you get the authentic voice, the genuine aspect of it, the humanness, as Bartender was talking about this morning. AI still has work to do to get there. So this is my real challenge right now, and if anybody else has a solution for it, but AI for voice recording hasn't gotten to where I need it to be.
You could hire Blair out, maybe, Barrett.
Yeah, right.
Frankie, you have anything?
Yeah, we've had a couple. One, we have a customer service agent that's doing similar things to Jenna described. It's not quite as sophisticated as being able to change an order delivery address just yet, but it's getting there. And we trained it on like our tone of voice and to be like nice to people and to have like a kind of a similar experience, I guess, to if you were talking to a human. And it got a bit too nice, so it started like being too generous. So like there was one where someone asked to change a delivery address to so actually we do delivery addresses to their new house, but they were moving to somewhere really random in Eastern Europe where we don't ship, and it was like, yeah, sure, no problem, I'll do that for you now, and obviously that couldn't happen, so we had to kind of go back through it and contact the person and say, actually we can't do this. So that was one, and then the other is around the kind of AI-driven merchandising that we're using on PLPs, we to begin with, we were optimizing to conversion rate, and we've got quite an extensive range of average selling price, so it can go from anything from like $75 up to $3,000. And what happened was our AOV plummeted because the AI was like, okay, these things are converting really highly, let's shift them up. And then obviously what that did was bring down AOV. So we had to kind of iterate and learn and change to a more AOV and conversion rate balanced approach, but also utilize humans to kind of try and identify where it was going off track a little bit. So yeah, it's definitely a huge learning curve for sure.
Jenna, your job is to educate people on the skills to acquire and how to build the future. So what are the skills to acquire in this new age? What are the things we're going to have to learn?
Well, I mean, I think fearlessness is a really big one. I think there's a component here about digital executives needing to get really deep within their current tech stacks. The reality is that even if you don't think you're committed to AI, and even if you don't think that you have peers that are interested in AI or willing to trust it, you're already using it. So there's a really, really big opportunity to start just leaning into your existing tech stacks. Have all of your existing technologists repitch you on not just the current state of the product, but where they're headed. I guarantee you they all have a long-term vision for how they're going to be utilizing AI. So a really great way to kind of just get this infused in your business is to measure the value of AI that is already being infused into your business. It's happening. I sat at an NRF chat in January and I said, hey, raise your hand if you're a retailer. Half the room raised their hand. I said, keep your hand raised if you're using AI today. And like 90% of these hands went down. I said, okay, put your hands back up if you're using a decisioning engine for fraud. And all their hands went back up. And I said, okay, well, you're using AI. So there's a great opportunity here to be evangelists internally within your own environments to make sure that your peers understand that AI isn't a if or a when, it's a now, it's happening already. So I would say, number one, like just lean in and educate yourselves deeply on your current committed technology. And then I think testing and learning, we've heard it over and over again today, just continuing to test and be fearless and be a good partner to your vendors. These vendors are pushing the boundaries. They are running on fumes right now because there's not a lot of money out there for them right now, right? Not a lot of investors are opening up their wallets. And so I think it's just really important as retailers for us to give back and become champions of this as well.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Give them a hand. Thank you so much.